Hey everyone, this is Will Ward, loan officer with Prime Lending. Today is Friday, March 17th. So I wanted to dive right into the news following the Federal Open Market Committee's meeting earlier this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you hadn't heard the news yet, the Fed decided to increase their Fed funds rate by another 0.25% on Wednesday following a 9-to-1 vote, as was largely expected by the markets, to a target range of 0.75 to 1%. So this marks the second time in the last 4 months that we've seen them raise the bar like this. They also stuck with their future guidance and expectations of 2 more possible rate hikes to be seen throughout 2017. So part of the Fed's reasoning behind the decision this time was the ongoing strong belief that the labor market continues to strengthen with low unemployment levels in the mid 4% range, and also inflation increasing in recent months at their target level of 2% year over year. So ultimately future rate hikes are going to be done gradually and as the economic data warrants, with the next expected rate hike to be in June and again in December of 2017. So at the end of the day, what does this all really mean? What does this mean to me? What does this mean to you, the consumer? What does it mean to you if you're considering whether or not now's a good time to jump into the real estate market with all this interest rate movement? So the actual Fed funds rate is the interest rate at which banks lend balances to each other that are held at the Federal Reserve on an overnight terms to maintain their minimum required reserve balances. However, its impact and influence on the U.S. economy goes far beyond that. So the rise in the short-term interest rate will largely start to impact people who carry credit card balances and other forms of short-term debt that have rates tied to indexes such as credit cards, home equity lines of credit, car loans, and adjustable rate mortgages, with the effect largely being seen most likely in your credit card statements in the next couple billing cycles. So for those of you who have student loan debt, federal student loans have fixed interest rates, so most borrowers won't be impacted by the rate hike likely in the immediate future. However, there are some private student loans that may be tied to an index and an adjustable rate. So even though the increase should also theoretically impact the amount of interest we receive on our savings and money market accounts, unfortunately, banks tend to be much slower to adjust those types of rates in the consumer's favor. So as far as the actual impact on mortgage rates goes, if you've been paying attention or if you've seen the news over the last few months, the market has already seen rates creep up over the last 6 months following the election in November. So mortgage rate movement can generally be tied and influenced by yields on U.S. Treasury notes. So fixed rate mortgages are generally not too reactionary to the Fed's decision to increase the Fed funds rate, especially unexpected ones such as this. So while it's impossible to predict exactly how mortgage rates are going to react moving forward through the year, a modest increase is definitely no reason to panic. However, it's a perfect reason to start planning ahead, especially in a real estate landscape like this, with a fast-paced seller's market and such low inventory levels being seen in most areas, and since the Fed is certainly predicting more interest rate hikes throughout the year in response to the country's ongoing improving economy and strengthening labor market. So for example, when we look at Freddie Mac's weekly primary mortgage market survey that was published yesterday, the national average for the conventional 30-year fixed-rate mortgage ended the week up 0.09% from last week's number at 4.3% on a national average. This is also up from 3.73% a year ago, this time 2016. So ultimately, the most important first step you can take to be prepared for changes in interest rate volatility is to talk with a home loan expert and begin mapping your path to home ownership as soon as possible. Whether you plan on being in a new home in 30 days, 6 months, or even up to 12 or more months from now, it's never too early to start planning for your future. So that's all I've got for today, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me on Facebook, send me an email to will.ward@primelending.com, or give me a ring at 314-529-3688. Everybody have a fantastic weekend and happy St. Patrick's Day.